Okay, so picture this. You go on vacation for 2 weeks, right? You completely turn off your phone, absolutely zero contact with your office. What happens? Does your team just thrive, make decisions, and push projects forward, or does the whole thing instantly grind to this panicked halt? Because, well, if it's the latter, you haven't actually built a team. You've kind of just built a fan club. So let's dive right into this explainer. The whole concept we're unpacking today is called the architecture of multiplication. And honestly, it fundamentally challenges pretty much everything we've been taught about managing teams, guiding organizations, and building true influence. It really all boils down to one simple but massive question. What is the true goal of leadership? Seriously, think about the traditional corporate ladder for a second. For decades, the ultimate flex was having the biggest corner office, the longest line of people waiting outside your door just for permission to do their jobs. The bigger the crowd standing behind you, the higher up the ladder you climbed, the more important you felt. It was entirely about hoarding power and, well, accumulating followers. But the source material we are exploring today, it completely shatters that outdated narrative with a genuinely paradigm-shifting insight. And that insight is this. Leadership is not about control, but about the transfer of capability. Let that sink in. That is a massive operational shift. Let's break that down without all the boring corporate jargon. In the old model, leadership basically meant you held the steering wheel really tight while everyone else just sat in the back and watched you drive. But the transfer of capability, that actually means tossing them the keys, getting into the passenger seat and totally trusting them to navigate. It's about taking your hard-earned knowledge, your instincts, and your skills and actively downloading them into the people around you so they are fully empowered to just act on their own. Moving on to section 1, the leadership illusion, deconstructing the myth of followers. The core idea here is that a true leader does not create followers. A true leader creates more leaders. It's a brilliant, punchy little maxim, but actually putting it into practice, that is incredibly difficult for a lot of managers. And why is that? Well, a lot of the time, it really just comes down to imposter syndrome. I mean, if you spend all your energy turning your team into your absolute equals, you might start wondering what makes you special anymore, right? But that fear is exactly what holds entire organizations back. Your primary job isn't to get a group of people to blindly execute your commands. Your job is to cultivate independent decision makers. So there is this massive structural difference between gathering people around you and building people who can stand without you. Let's be totally honest here. Gathering people often feels really great. We all know that one manager who absolutely loves the sound of their own voice in meetings, the one who thrives on being the indispensable genius with all the answers. But empowering people to stand without you, that is the absolute essence of genuine leadership. It takes a tremendous amount of quiet, internal confidence to train someone so completely that they literally do not need you in the room anymore to hit a home run. Which brings us to section 2, followers versus leaders, the great divide in behavior. When an organization runs purely on followers, what you end up seeing is a culture of deep, deep dependency. When a crisis hits, people just freeze up. They wait for instructions. Their primary goal becomes protecting their own little piece of territory and making sure they just don't get blamed. But when you actively cultivate leaders, the entire ecosystem shifts. Instead of waiting to be told what to do, they take responsibility. They learn to actually think for themselves. Instead of hoarding information to protect their jobs, they act as multipliers, adding value across the whole company. It's literally the difference between a team that merely survives a challenge and a team that completely owns it. All right, section 3, the multiplication mindset, reevaluating the real test of leadership. So, most people mistakenly gauge their success by how many people they can attract. Their total head count, the size of their department, basically their corporate fan base. But according to our source material, the true test of your capability is actually how many people you develop to become undeniably better than you. And wow, that phrase, better than you, is the ultimate gut check, isn't it? Think about the absolute best mentors in history. Their success wasn't found in maintaining some kind of superiority, but in making themselves functionally obsolete because their proteges finally surpassed them. Now, it's totally natural to hear that and think, wait a minute, if I make them better than me, won't I just lose my job? But the reality is that the strongest leaders are not threatened when others grow. They are completely fulfilled by it. When you shift your mindset from doing the work to building the people who do the work, you actually skyrocket your own value. You become known as a kingmaker, right? A developer of top tier talent. Watching your team surpass your own capabilities shouldn't trigger anxiety. It should be the absolute ultimate validation of your impact. Let's look at section 4, building a strong system, the ultimate system test. This is a quote I absolutely love. If you are the only strong person in your system is weak. Seriously, let the weight of that vulnerability sink in for a second. We see this all the time, right? Companies that rely on a single superstar founder or some genius creative director. Every major decision has to cross their desk, every fire requires their specific intervention to put out, and sure, they might feel incredibly important, but they have unknowingly designed an incredibly fragile organization. A system with a single point of failure, meaning you, is literally just one bad flu away from total collapse. But there is a much more resilient alternative. If you build others to become strong, your impact does not end with you. It continues directly through them. This perfectly bridges the gap between being a fragile bottleneck and building a totally self-sustaining powerhouse. Building strong people is the absolute secret to enduring influence. It is exactly how you craft a legacy that outlasts your tenure at a company, or your physical presence in a room, or honestly, even your lifetime. You multiply your value by embedding your best traits into capable, independent leaders who will just carry the torch forward. So I want you to look closely at your daily routines and the way you interact with your team. Who are you multiplying in your own system right now? Are you just gathering an audience, or are you genuinely transferring capability? Take a step back today, evaluate your impact, and ask yourself, are you ready to build the leaders who will one day stand completely without you?